Stop thinking of your career as an elevator. Start thinking of it like the elevator we see in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I get to choose what I define as a career. I get to choose how I define success. I also get to choose how I find and fight for opportunities that help me get there. Alignment has to be on 3 levels. The first alignment has to be on fundamental values. The second has to be what skills do I want to grow and how is this role helping me get it? And the third is what are my well-being expectations?
Feeling lost and overwhelmed in a job market that's changing faster than you can say AI-driven resume? We're living in an unprecedented job market, and traditional job search methods often fall short. But you don't have to navigate it all alone.
This is Bridging the Gap, the podcast dedicated to helping you navigate unemployment and move to your next opportunity.
We'll bring you expert interviews, practical strategies, and real job seeker journeys to help you master the mindset and take control. Join us as we bridge the gap from where you are today to where you want to be. Welcome to Bridging the Gap podcast. My name is Rick Meekins. I am going to be your host today.
And I'm Kaylee McGeehee-Hurst, and I'm your co-host.
And hey, this is going to be a beautiful day. In our studio today, ladies and gentlemen, we have Shruti Rustagi.
Rustagi. That's right, Rick. So, hi, everyone. I'm Shruti Rustagi.
Thank you. We could have led with that. You know, you could have just introduced yourself. We could have been on down the road. But no, I had to mess it up. I can't. Folks, thank you so much for watching or listening to another episode. We would be grateful if you would like, subscribe, hit the bell so you can get updates every time we drop a new episode. So, Shruti, again, welcome to the studio. Can you give our audience a little bit of background about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely, Rick. Happy to. So, I have 2 decades of global leadership experience across Fortune 100 companies. Worked in Middle East, North Africa, Southeast Asia, and now North America. Outside of that, I also am a leadership coach, and my whole work focuses on transforming middle managers into high impact leaders. A mom of 2, I'm based in Austin, Texas, US.
Excellent. Again, welcome to the show. And we're going to talk today about how we navigate careers in this economy and in the world going forward, really. Kaylee, you want to lead off with a question for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what we have built this podcast about is really speaking to the job seekers out there, which there are a lot of them right now, and a lot of frustration, a lot of job fatigue, job searching fatigue, all the different reasons. What do you see in the job market right now? And what do you see as one of the biggest challenges that people are facing?
I think, Kaylee, I would say that the different people could be facing different challenges. I cannot say that there's a universal issue that we're seeing, but the 2 that come to mind based on everyone I've spoken to is the first thing that we're seeing is skills are changing very rapidly on what is needed and what will be needed for the future. So there is a constantly evolving skill gap that we see. The second big thing that we're seeing is also a generational shift. We are seeing the job seekers wanting certain things from a job, and the companies offering something which may or may not match to what the job seekers want. And so we are seeing these differences because of the generational differences, multi-generational people coming into the workforce today.
Can you give us an example? Are you talking about wanting remote work, or what kind of examples that are generational that are not being offered by companies?
Sure. And it's not necessarily that they're not being offered, but it's also about how the companies are positioning the jobs. So remote work is definitely one of them. The other thing could be that the people today do want to balance the work with their life. It's no longer about let me slog for 20, 30 years and then I will look at my family and then I will go have vacation, then I will have fun. So they're looking at companies who support those kind of things. More than ever, women are looking for companies who are supporting, maternity journeys along the way. It no longer is a choice. It no longer is about, I will do this for a few years, then take a break, and so on and so forth. So I think it's very subtle of those things. The skill, of course, is a different ballgame altogether with AI coming into the picture. And I just don't even know that what you're expecting me to, learn and ramp up on, that sort of a thing.
Oh yeah, that's fascinating to think about. I mean, and in particular too, the maternal. I grew up in the workforce that you can't ask about that in interviews. You can't say, "Hey, do you offer maternity leave?" And now, often, even in a job description, it's one of the benefits that they provide. But do you feel like companies are not catching up with and really C-suite, who make those decisions are not catching up with the generational workforce?
I don't think I would put it like that. I think they are in some parts. I'm also not the biggest expert on the job market, to be honest, because I've spent my last 8 years with Amazon. So I would not necessarily know exactly who's catching up or not. But to answer your question, I think the companies are catching up, but the demands are also evolving. And I think there's another bit that I see more and more. I don't have data to back this though. But what I'm seeing is increasingly younger people do want more authority. They also want bigger scope without the necessary experience.
Mm,
That is
mm.
something that I'm seeing even in interviews, but that again could be just me.
No,
Just
I've seen the same thing. I've interviewed a number of people, and yeah, that was certainly part of the conversation. They're very growth oriented. How can I move up? How can I move up quickly? What's next what's next for me? I think that's a big part of the conversation. And I think that in terms of, just designing our HR structures, that has always been something that we had to have in the back of our mind. How do we keep this younger generation motivated? How do we give them the feedback? How do we show them a career path that's going to keep them with the company, because they're not necessarily thinking like we thought when we were younger. Hey, we work for one company and we work for the next 20 years and we retire. They're not thinking that way. They're like, okay, let's figure out how I can make the system work for me, so to speak. Is that also part of what you're seeing?
very much, Rick. Very much.
And
So
that's humanizing the story too, right, Rick? It's the shift to what people are actually looking for. And there's a lot about the lift as you climb. So when you're hiring somebody, you're thinking about their lives and where they want to go with their career rather than, like you said, you both have said, just sticking with a company for 20 years and that's your day to day and in and out. It's more about the story of the human and what they're wanting out of their lives.
Mm,
Very true.
mm. Is it on the onus of the company to help create that story, to think about when they're hiring people about how they contribute to that story, or is it more on the onus of the person that's seeking work?
Good question.
So, Rick, I am a firm believer that of high agency. Let me put it like that. So, the locus of control of whatever is happening in our lives is inside. What that means is I get to choose what I define as a career. I get to choose how I define success. I also get to choose how I find and fight for opportunities
Mhm.
that help me get there. If that makes sense.
It does. It does. It does. I'm wondering, however, if we're looking at it from that perspective, and we talk about it, I'll use the term rabbiting. How do when companies are looking to recruit people, how does that knowledge need to play into the conversations? Because we're hiring, as you said, we're hiring people that have their own agendas and that sort of thing. What do you think needs to happen?
I think the alignment has to be on three levels. The first alignment has to be on fundamental values. Why am I wanting to work for this company? What does this company stand for that I want to support in the world, right?
Mm,
The
mm,
second big alignment has to be on what skills do I want to grow and how is this role with this company or any other company helping me get, right? And the
mhm,
third one that I would say is basically what are my well being expectations? And well being, I do not only mean work from home kind of thing. It includes the salary, it includes the benefits, it includes those kind of pieces. So I'm at a stage in my life where I have a toddler. I will need the flexibility. I'm at a stage in my life where I've just started work. I can put in 20-hour work weeks, but I want to earn more. I want to go travel. I want to take up a job that lets me go explore the whole world. What is it that well being at this stage of your life means to you? And so
Mm,
I think what people need to do, and that's why the onus lies on the people, that they need to be very clear about what are these three elements for them, right? I can give you an example of value, for instance, right? Because values is the most amorphous term here. For me, one of the big values is exploration. Now, that some people can translate that to travel, but for me, that means that the company should be such that lets me learn across different roles. One of my biggest reasons of staying on with Amazon is actually it aligns on two of the most fundamental values for me. One, I have moved around geographically, roles, everything, so I can learn more. Whenever I feel my learning is stalled, I move to my next role.
mm,
The second, the level of transparency in this organization is stupendous. There is nothing like, oh, there's a black hole around how promotions are done. There's a black hole around how performance evaluation is done. None of that. It's transparent. And so what makes you go in and makes you stick with an organization is usually how well they can fit into those three pieces for you.
mm, Good thoughts. Good thoughts. I like that. I like that. I think so. The transparency within Amazon is something that could probably be replicated by other organizations, just in terms of helping people. That's interesting. How transparent does a job seeker need to be, in that same conversation? I mean, they have agency. They're creating their, career path. It's not the linear career path that, we're familiar with. What do they need to do in order to prepare, for that conversation, if that's a conversation that needs to happen, or, when that conversation needs to happen?
Say on two counts, they need to be very transparent. So the first thing is they need to be transparent about what they have complete clarity on. So along the lines of skills and well-being aspects, those are the two pieces which you can more discuss with the HR or the recruiter, right?
Hmm.
And so, on both of those, the way I would think is as much clarity as you have. If you're super clear that this I need for my well being, this is not just, this is my non negotiable, let's call it, right?
Hmm.
So, if you're clear about your non negotiables across skills and well being elements, those should form part of the conversation.
Mm,
Of course, skills also means do your skills align to what they're looking for? It cannot just be a one-way street, right? It would also mean, like, for instance, take a trading job. Now, a trading role is determined by the hours of trading, right, on a stock exchange. Now, if you in your current stage in life cannot adhere to them, you probably are not the best fit for that role right now.
hmm.
So you have to, the fitment is never one-way street. It has to be both ways.
Yeah, yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. Of course, that makes sense. We're hiring.
What makes the job search even first, it's great point to be able to identify what it is that you actually want and what you value, because you're not going to go somewhere and leave pretty quickly because you're unhappy with it, right? But that makes the job search a little bit harder because finding that, there's companies that are looking for unicorns, and then there's employees that are looking for unicorns in companies. I'll give an example. You mentioned, toddler, like having kids. I live in Dallas, but I'm in the northern part in Frisco. There's no way I'm taking a job downtown. It would be, 2 hour one way commute in rush hour traffic, and I can't do that with kids. But that's kicking me out of some job opportunities I may be qualified for. Identifying those values and what you want, how do you wrap your mind around then the job search taking longer and being harder to find?
Mm, good question.
It's a great question, Kaylee. And that's where I would say that being 100% clear on your non negotiables. So think about what your non negotiable is. Is it really the 2-hour commute. So first of all, that's a 2-hour commute in rush hours. Can your job allow you to travel at different points? Go in a non-rush hour, come back in a non-rush hour. And we're just playing this one out, right?
Right.
The second one, non-negotiable in your mind, is that I can't be away from kids for so long? Or is that I cannot send them to a daycare? So I think the clarity is always about get clear on the true non-negotiable in the whole situation. So then what that means is you're not telling or you're not excluding the companies which are in downtown, but now you're just including companies which are okay for flexible hours.
Right. Yeah. Good point.
Right? You're also looking for daycare options closer to your place, which will align with those flexible hours. And I think, which is again, I'll come back to the point on agency. Once you have the clarity and the agency, you will figure out a way to work. And the job market is becoming tougher with AI coming in. There is no two ways around it. We
Mhm.
all know that, right? So maybe clarifying your non-negotiables such that they are also not leaving you out from where there might be more opportunity is the way to start looking at things.
And you may have to change a non-negotiable and figure something out
Then
that
they never were non-negotiables in the first place.
Just in terms of keeping a job, there's mental and emotional stability and resilience that I think our audience really needs to hear about. They're going to work, and sometimes things happen, or people that are just looking for work. Just being able to maintain, it's like, hey, what, I need to get up, I need to do this again every single day. How do you support, or what do you recommend to folks that are in these I don't know, almost like fluid type situations, or feeling like their roles are fluid almost?
yeah.
So let me get a question.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Rick. No, I was just gonna say, let me clarify the question. Are you saying for people who are already in roles but feel that anytime anything could change, or people who are looking for roles? Which one is
It I
this?
was I was just thinking about the instability just in general. So you do have
Yeah.
people that are in roles, and they're seeing, people around them, or they're hearing, things happening in the news, but also you have people that are out of work, and in both cases, there's a human component to this. There's a,
Fear.
hey, you know what? I'm concerned. Stress is like a killer in our country, depression and everything else, and it's not sustainable.
Absolutely, Rick. And that's again a great point. And I would say there are 3 dimensions on which one will need to consider this, right? The first dimension is psychologically, how do we train to start thinking about this not as something I can control? And so, what do I do with things I can't control? That's the first, and we'll get into the details of that. The second piece, which we need to start doing, is more at a tackle level. Tomorrow, I could be out of a job. What do I need to do today to support me? And the third one we need to do at a more strategic level, which is what do I want from my life in the long run?
Hmm.
What do I want 5 years down the line? What do I want 10 years down the line? What will support me today to do that, whether it's this job or some other job? And how does that get impacted if tomorrow I'm left jobless?
Mm.
And so these 3 are super connected because unless and until we do the psychological work, the tactical and the strategic work do not get done. And the
Mhm.
tactical work depends again on the strategic work.
Mm.
So let's talk about the first one, right? If you think about the first one, there was this really good book. Everybody must have heard of it, 7 Habits of, Great Leaders.
Mhm.
So now in 7 Habits, there is this circle or 3 concentric circles rather that talk about what's in your circle of control. That's the innermost circle. Then you have a concentric circle outside of that that says this is what is in your circle of influence. And then the outermost circle, which is called the circle of concern, should actually not be your concern because that's outside of your control, right? So every time we get stressed about, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen, that's outside of my control.
Mhm.
What's in my control and influence? Am I today indispensable enough to my company? What makes me indispensable?
Mhm.
Have I driven results and always adapted and grown my skills that could be useful for myself and for my organization, both, right? And the last question that one should ask is, if tomorrow I'm let go, how will I leverage everything that I have done so far, the achievements and the skills, into finding something outside or doing something of my own,
Mm.
right? Which is where I will connect it back to what I was saying. When you join an organization, think about the skills you want to gain and the well being elements. Both are critical.
Mm. It sounds like, we're breaking out of that habit of being defined by our jobs, by our roles, and we're looking at it more from our individual goals. So it's more of an internal process than being dependent on that third circle, the area of concern that we have no control over. I think that's brilliant. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have our favorite question that we like to ask our guests. So as you know, we're speaking to a lot of people that are in transition, and so the name of the show, of course, is Bridging the Gap. So our question to you, is what would you recommend to a job seeker from your perspective about how they might bridge the gap from their current situation, likely unemployed or perhaps even in a role that they don't want to be in, to getting to a place where they want to be?
Use something that is coming up in my book. So I'm upcoming author. I'm writing a book called Fearless Productivity: Mindset Pivots to Maximize Life. And that talks about a little bit on how should you think about opportunities? How should you think about what are you seeking, right? And so to answer your question, when they are in this when they are either preparing for transition or they're in the transition phase, how should they be thinking about opportunities? How should they be thinking about training their brains, right? I would say identify these two things, okay? One, how and where will you have fun? Now, that's so counterintuitive that, trust me, people listening to it will be like, she's gone bonkers. But that's important because you cannot just dread
Yeah.
and hate every moment and still do something. You will be killing yourself. And sometimes those fun opportunities, those fun places may not seem like opportunities to begin with. But
Mhm.
because you're having fun, you will be able to make so much more out of it.
Mhm.
What is visible to you today is only somebody else's vision of what that role is. Make it your own. Have fun. Make it bigger. Make it grander. Design it the way you want to design it. Ownership is one of the biggest traits that people don't think about much, but that's the game changer in careers, right? That's the first thing I would say. The second thing that I would say is, this is my favorite analogy: stop thinking of your career as an elevator, a standard building elevator, or a ladder. Start thinking of it like the elevator we see in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. You have the capability to go sideways, upwards, diagonal, even completely different buildings. Are you thinking that you're only poised for technical companies? Maybe start thinking about manufacturing companies, but technical roles within manufacturing companies, right? So don't limit yourself to this is the only way forward. Maybe what you were fantastic at was mentoring people. Why don't you take that up as a side gig? Why do you keep looking for something else that matches or fits your bill?
Yeah.
Right? So I would say focus on the fun, just because that's where creativity will thrive and you will be able to design the role and the career that you're looking for. And then stop looking at career as a ladder. Personalize your success.
Wonderful,
And
wonderful.
don't live in
I
fear,
love fun.
right?
Don't live
Yeah.
in fear at all, Kaylee. I love that one. Be fearless, be you.
Yeah. That's awesome. Love that.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Shruti, I thank you so much for coming on the show. This was fun. This was educational. I really appreciate you sharing all of your wisdom and knowledge with us. And Kaylee, it's been fun doing another show. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Rick and Kaylee. It was super fun for me too.
Yes, thank you. And we'll look forward to that book too. Do you want to say the title one more time for us and the listeners?
Yes, the book is called Fearless Productivity: Mindset Pivots to Maximize Life. It's coming in July 2026 this year.
Woo.
Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
amazing. Yeah, look forward to it.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And folks, thank you so much for watching or listening to another episode of Bridging the Gap podcast. We'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
We hope this episode has helped you feel a little more in control in your career journey. Remember, you don't have to navigate it alone.
For more on bridging the gap between where you are today and where you want to be in your job search, be sure to subscribe to Bridging the Gap wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us online for more tools and resources.
Join us next time as we continue to help you navigate unemployment to your next opportunity. Until then, stay resilient.